footy fans, welcome to another episode of Bev's Footy Tips for round 21, 2022. We've got 3 rounds to go in the home and away season. Boy, oh boy, don't we have a big finish coming up. Let's get straight into it. Let's begin with the round 20 winner of the Bev Show tipping comp, and it's a big whoa, you beauty, to Joshua Son, who correctly guessed 8 out of the 9 matches correct. He was the closest to the margin, so well done to you, Joshua, you ripper-dipper superstar. And this is the overall leaderboard after 20 rounds of footy. Prouthouse on top, followed by P. Cripps Bro in second. Both those tipsters on 126 total tips, so just the margin separating those two tipsters for the moment. We then got Cats Fan 1-7 in third with 125 total tips. And then in fourth, Finman, and fifth, Chris Riggy 1-2-3. Both those tipsters on 124 total tips. Let's now reflect on my round 20 tips. I tipped the D's over the Dockers. I tipped Collingwood over Port Adelaide. I tipped Sydney over GWS. I tipped St Kilda over Hawthorn. I tipped Geelong over my beloved Western Bulldogs. I tipped Adelaide over Carlton. I tipped Gold Coast over West Coast. I tipped Richmond over Brisbane. And then in the final game of the round, I tipped Essendon over North Melbourne. So, pretty good round from me. Got 8 out of the 9 matches correct. Last week I got 8 out of 9, but of course included the draw. So, it went a lot better this weekend. It brings me to a total of 120 total tips. So, I'm gaining a bit of ground very slowly. We'll see if I can gain a little bit more ground in round 21. Let's get straight into my tips. Round 21 gets underway on Friday night with a belter of a match. It's Melbourne taking on Collingwood at the MCG. Game getting underway at 7:50 p.m. Melbourne, they're coming off a 46-point win over Fremantle in Perth last Friday night. They're now back at the MCG and taking on a Collingwood team who have won their last 10 games, which includes a win over Melbourne back in round 13 by 26 points. Yeah, good game this one. Could go either way. I did say last week that the winning streak is bound to finish for Collingwood at some stage, surely. And I think it's going to happen this weekend. Collingwood will be without Taylor Adams for the rest of the home and away season. Jeremy Howe, Brody Mychek also in a bit of doubt for the match. And I really like the win from Melbourne last week. So I'm going to tip the D's. Not confident with that tip though, because Collingwood, they've been flying. As I said, they've won their last 10, but the winning streak, it's got to come to an end at some point. Tipping that it will come to an end this week. Going to tip Melbourne by 15 points. There's a bunch of Saturday matches, and the first of them is Hawthorn taking on the Gold Coast Suns at UTAS Stadium in Launceston. Game getting underway at 1:45 p.m. Hawthorn coming into this off the back of a loss to St Kilda, where they only went down by 12 points in the end. It could have been bigger, but Hawthorn kept fighting right till the end. Gave St Kilda a little bit of a scare, but the Saints were able to hold the Hawks off in the end. Gold Coast, they're coming into this match off the back of a win, but it was only a narrow win over West Coast by 3 points. Of course, these two teams have already met this season back in round 11. It was Gold Coast Suns getting the job done comfortably by 67 points. That match was in Darwin, though. This match is in Launceston at UTAS Stadium. And Gold Coast, they've played 5 matches at the ground and have lost all 5 of them. So, given that stat, I have to go with Hawthorn. I know Gold Coast are a better team this year, but yeah, that's a concern for me, the fact that they've played 5 games at the venue for 5 losses. And Hawthorn, they usually play quite good at the venue. They've played 2 games there this season for a win and a loss. One of those wins, well, that win I spoke about was over Brisbane. So, yeah, going to back Hawthorn in, just given the fact that it's at UTAS Stadium. The other Saturday afternoon game is at Giants Stadium. It's the GWS Giants taking on Essendon at 2:10 p.m. Fair to say Essendon are the better form team out of the two. They've won 4 of their last 5 matches and they've won more than they've lost in this second half of the season. And they're taking on a GWS team who have lost their last 4 games. But I don't feel like the Bombers are a certainty in this game. I feel like it's a bit of an iffy one because the Giants, they've won the last 3 against the Bombers. And the game's also at Giants Stadium. And the Giants got a bake from their interim coach at the end of the poor loss to Sydney last weekend when they went down by 73 points. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond from that. But I've got to go with the better form team, and that team is the Bombers. So tipping the Bombers, but not really confident with that tip, to be honest. The Saturday twilight game is an absolute ripper. It's the Western Bulldogs taking on Fremantle, 4:35 p.m. start at Marvel Stadium. The Dockers, they're in a bit of a pickle at the moment, aren't they? They've lost 2 of their last 3 games, and in between those 2 losses was a draw. And they're taking on a Western Bulldogs team who put together 2 wins in a row before losing to Geelong last Saturday night. They were the better team early, no doubt about that. But once the Cats flicked the switch, the Dogs just couldn't go with them. And in the end, the Dogs went down by 28 points. Disappointing loss given the start, but I'm happy to put that loss to a side because the Cats are usually hard to beat at GMHBA Stadium. And in my opinion, they are the team to beat at the moment. They're the premiership favourites. So yeah, back at Marvel, I expect the Dogs to bounce back. I am going to tip them, but I'm not taking Fremantle lightly. Their best is good enough to win this. The Dogs, though, they need to win their remaining 3 matches, in my opinion, to give themselves the best possible chance of making finals. And Fremantle, well, they'll want to win most of their remaining games as well to give themselves the best possible chance of making the 4. So a lot to play in this game, but yeah, going to back my Doggies in to get the win at Marvel Stadium at a venue that they play their best footy at. The first of 2 Saturday night matches at GMHBA Stadium, 7:25 p.m. start time. It's Geelong taking on St Kilda. It's first taking on 8th. Geelong, they've won their last 10. St Kilda have won their last 2. The Saints were the last team to beat the Cats, actually, back in round 9 at Marvel Stadium. St Kilda won by 10 points on that occasion. So that will give the Saints a bit of confidence going into this game, but it's at GMHBA Stadium. The Saints have lost their last 10 at the venue. They haven't won since 1999. And the Cats, well, they're the team to beat right now. As I mentioned before, they're the premiership favourites. Brilliant win against the Dogs last weekend when they put together an 8-goal third quarter. So, yeah, have to tip the Cats in this one to get the job done. They should get it done quite comfortably. Probably the better game out of the 2 on Saturday night, in my opinion anyway, is at the Adelaide Oval, 7:40 p.m. start time. It's Port Adelaide taking on Richmond. I'll be watching this game on Saturday night, I reckon. And I feel like it could go either way, this game. Port Adelaide have lost their last 3, but they've been in the contest in all their last 3 games. And they're taking on a Richmond team who finally won a close one last weekend, defeating Brisbane by 7 points after being 42 points down at one stage. It was a remarkable come-from-behind win. But they now face Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, and Richmond have lost their last 2 at the venue. They did lose to Adelaide earlier in the season, and they also lost to Port Adelaide at the venue last year. These 2 teams did meet back in round 13 of this year. It was at the MCG, Richmond winning by 13 points. As I said, game could go either way, but given it's at the Adelaide Oval, I'm going to back Port Adelaide in to get the chocolates, but I'm expecting an entertaining game of footy. Moving on to the Sunday matches now, the first of them at Marvel Stadium, 1:10 p.m. start time. It's North Melbourne taking on the Sydney Swans. I just expect the Swans to win this one, given the form of the 2 teams. The Swans have won their last 4 matches, and North Melbourne have only won the 2 matches this season. But they did meet earlier in the season in round 4, and it was the Swans only by 11 points. North Melbourne, they really took it up to the Swans on that occasion. I think they led for a majority of the match, I think, off memory. But the Swans were just too classy on that occasion. Yeah, I'm expecting the Swans, though, to get a comfortable win. on Sunday. The mid-Sunday afternoon match, I reckon it will be a ripper. It's the Brisbane Lions taking on Carlton at the Gabba, 3:20 p.m. start time. How did the Brisbane Lions lose to Richmond last weekend? Given they were 42 points up, they really should have won the match given the big lead that they had. But they let 4 points slip, and they now go back home and face a Carlton team who are under a bit of pressure themselves. They've gone win-loss since round 11. They lost to the Adelaide Crows last weekend at the Adelaide Oval. And I really don't like that they now go from the Adelaide Oval to the Gabba. I don't like Carlton as a travelling team, I'm going to be honest. So because of that, I'm tipping the Brisbane Lions. Gee, Carlton, though, they've really got to win one of their last 3 games to guarantee themselves finals. Because if they lose their last 3, they could miss out, which would be remarkable given they looked a certainty, in my opinion, not too long ago. So, big game. Tipping Brisbane, given it's at the Gabba, you just got to back Brisbane in. But, yeah, expecting a good game of footy, expecting some fight from Carlton. But, yeah, Brisbane might tip. And the final game of the round is over there in Western Australia at Optus Stadium in Perth. It is the West Coast Eagles taking on the Adelaide Crows. These two teams meet for the second time this season. Adelaide got the win in round 12 by 31 points. And the Crows are coming into this off the back of a good win over Carlton. They were the better team in that match, and as a result, they won by 29 points. It was a good win. They've now got to take that form over to Optus Stadium and take on a West Coast team where Josh Kennedy is playing his final game. He announced his retirement during the week. And because of that factor, I'm going to tip the West Coast Eagles in to get the win for Josh Kennedy, who's been a superstar for the West Coast Eagles over his long AFL career, of course. We know he was a part of that famous trade where Chris Judd went to Carlton, Josh Kennedy went to West Coast, and, well, who won that trade? I don't know, but Josh Kennedy, he's been an absolute superstar for the Eagles. So I'm going to tip the Eagles to cause an upset and get the win for Josh. So just recapping my round 21 tips, I've tipped Melbourne by 15 points. I've tipped Hawthorn, Essendon, the Western Bulldogs, Geelong, Port Adelaide, Sydney, Brisbane, and West Coast. And there you go, footy fans. That's another episode of Bev's Footy Tips done and dusted for round 21 of the 2022 AFL season. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below your tips for the upcoming round. And don't forget to press that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the content that I upload here on the Bev Show YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, bye for now, and go the mighty Bulldogs!